and boom goes the dynamite.
Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the start of the week for our Daily Dive episodes. We had an extra day off around Martin Luther King Day, so I hope everybody enjoyed a day of reflecting, service, and having a moment to pause and think about all we're doing in society to keep the legacy of Dr. King going. Well, guys, we also need an extra day because what a weekend it was. A weekend of firsts, a weekend of many firsts. And we'll be diving into that here on the show in just a moment. But first, look, we know the Monday to Friday grind can feel long, but our friends at B-Res Coffee are here to give you that extra boost of energy. With a ton of blends to choose from, B-Res Coffee is sure to elevate your daily routine, and it's our go-to coffee. Now, check it out for yourself. Go to the link in our bio to get yourself a sample pack, and don't forget to use the promo code DailyDive when checking out. Now, time to get into our top story presented by the Daily Dive store. The Rochester Knighthawks, the last remaining unbeaten team, they advanced to 5-0 after defeating the New York Riptide this past weekend, 11-8. We saw Connor Fields with 4 goals. We saw Holden Catoni, who joined us on Daily Dive a couple weeks ago, finished with 2 goals, 2 assists. I'm going to say it's the Daily Dive good luck charm as the Rochester Knighthawks remain undefeated and held Jeff Teets to 0 goals and 5 assists in the victory. Mike, any surprises that Rochester remains our last undefeated team?
Not really a surprise. We're gonna get to the strength of schedule in just a bit that I found out this morning, but not surprising because the Riptide are allergic to offense, and the New York Riptide know that Jeff Teat refuses to score. Listen, I really want Jeff Teat to prove me wrong. I said he was going to score 10 goals this weekend. He didn't. He had 5 assists, which is cool, but you can't have Callum Crawford do it. You can't have Callum Crawford as an older guy leading your. I can't have that happen. So I'm not surprised Rochester got it done.
Yeah, this is a team that's built around Jeff Teat. And if you're not able to find the back of the net, he did get 5 assists, but as you mentioned, 0 goals. You said 10. He got the 0, but forgot the 1 in front of it. So, but I'm bumps. Look, it's a struggle in New York right now. They still remain winless, I should say. So they get held off. They still haven't won a game. And for the Nighthawks, I think the biggest surprise is not as of now, week 7, that we're surprised, but just crazy how much of a switch it's been from last season and this season, that they've already had more wins already this season than they did last year. So when you think about the swing for the Nighthawks to now, you'll love to see it. You'll love to see it. Well, in other big news, we saw the Philadelphia Wings release veteran Corey Vittorelli, the 3-time NLL champ, who had played 3 games, only had 5 points this season. At 37 years old, the Wings decided to let him go. So we've been seeing some changes around the league in efforts to close the gap, to be more competitive in the league. Producer Mike, what are your thoughts on this? Any surprises at all by the news that Corey Vittorelli has been released from the Philadelphia Wings after their start to the season?
You'd like to have a championship pedigree in the locker room. I have to wonder if there's something underlying there. Maybe it got too much for him, because I looked at an old tweet of theirs. It was like they were so happy to sign him to a 1-year deal. So I don't see how you just cut a guy with, like I said, 3 championships and even lost one in 2018. Something is up with that. Obviously, wishing the best. There's a lot of respect on Twitter for that guy as well. So a lot of people wished him the best, and a lot of people didn't see it coming as well. So it was definitely a shocker, but I hope everything's okay with that.
That's a great point you bring up, because having a player in the locker room that's won championships, that's been in finals, does add a lot leadership-wise, but we know on the field he wasn't adding a lot production-wise. And so you wonder if there's more at play here as to what led to this decision, or even just his start to the season. And we'll stay tuned on that, and I'm sure we'll get our answer rather soon. But before we get into our guest for the episode that is going to be joining us, Andy Towers, Chaos head coach from the PLL, I first want to just take a moment to do our 3 stars of the weekend. Normally we do these towards the end of the episode, but we've got a jam-packed episode today. A wild weekend of 8 games, lots of news, lots of excitement. So with our 3 stars, the first goes to Rob Hellier of the Las Vegas Desert Dogs. Now, the Desert Dogs still chasing that first win after dropping a loss to the Vancouver Warriors, but with 10 assists and 1 goal in that high-scoring loss to the Warriors. 10 assists! There's the 10, Mike. There's the 10. Rob Hellier gets our first star of the weekend, Mike.
Yeah, it's funny because remember the first game of the season, he was just the guy who fought, and like he was just a veteran in the locker room. And now it's like, hey, to me, it's like if you're going to get a bunch of assists, why not 10 of them, right? I mean, 16 goals is hard to not win in the NLL, scoring 16. But shout out to him and shout out to Keegan Ball as well, who had 5 goals of his own. But like, we're going to get to that. But yeah, Rob is not just a dirty guy; he still got it, I believe.
Rob still got it. Hellier. And when you think about 10 assists and 1 goal, you are involved in 11 of these 16 goals. You gave your all to try to help your team win. So absolutely, Hellier gets a star for the start of the weekend. And now also in Albany, we had both picked against the Firewolves. We'll talk about this game later as well. The Firewolves were led by Kieran McArdle, who had 4 goals, 4 assists. We saw the late game heroics in that overtime win over the Halifax Thunderbirds. No surprise at all that our second star of the weekend has to go here.
Yeah, he proved us both wrong because Thunderbirds did not see that coming. Doug Jameson, 50 saves, almost was a star of the weekend. But listen, when you were down by 2 goals, this guy says, I got 1, I'll assist on another, and then I'll score the game winner. Absolutely incredible. He's a star on that team, and it showed. And remember, their leading points guy was out, as we reported, and Kieran McArdle said, bump that, we're going to win anyways.
Again, involved with 8 of their 11 goals, and as you mentioned, including the most important ones of the game to help them win in overtime. And like I said on Twitter, if we're going to be wrong about a pick, I am fine with being wrong about a pick like this. And our final star of the weekend goes to Josh Byrne, as he had a sock trick, 2 hat tricks together make a sock trick. I don't know how we go from the hat to the sock, but we'll take it. 6 goals and 3 assists in the win over the Georgia Swarm, as the Bandits still remain one of the top teams across the NLL. We said it was probably going to be Josh Byrne and Dane Smith, actually, that stepped back up this week to show they're still the big dogs in Bandit land.
MVP. MVP. I'm telling you, Josh Byrne is on fire, pun intended.
Oh, yeah. I like that. Well, we gave you our 3 stars of the weekend. We shared with you some breaking news in Philadelphia around the release of veteran Corey Vittorelli, as well as the fact that the Knighthawks remain the last team to be undefeated, which I feel like I said they were going to be the last undefeated team. So I feel like I did. In case I was just testing you guys to make sure you remembered. I definitely said it was going to be the Rochester Knighthawks. Called it. The good luck charm continues here on Daily Dive. So with that being said, we've got to bring in somebody else that's had some great luck of their own over in the PLL. That's our big guest of the day, Andy Towers, head coach of the Chaos. And that's coming up here in just a moment on Daily Dive. Stay tuned. Daily Dive. I'm your host, Renee Washington. We've been talking about news around the NLL. Well, let's shift over to the PLL with our guest of the day, presented by Fanatics, Andy Towers, head coach of the Chaos. Andy, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks. I'm glad to be on.
Yes. Now, Andy, as we're getting ready to look ahead to the PLL season, which will be here before we know it, what can we expect from the Chaos?
Well, I think you look at the way our season ended last year, and, in a perfect world, we're 3 goals better this season than we were last summer. It's no secret that we're pretty box lacrosse, NLL heavy on the offensive end. And last year it was a little bit of a tough start for us given the overlap in the NLL playoff schedule with the PLL training camp in the first 3 games, and with so many of our best offensive players playing in the NLL, it was tough for us to really get connected across the board. While we were able to do it defensively, offensively was much more of a challenge. And the hope is now with some improvement in terms of that overlap. It's not perfect yet, but it's better. The hope is that we're going to be able to be connected front to back, earlier in the year and ideally go into the playoffs playing our best lacrosse. We were able to do that last summer, but I'd like to have us get it together sooner.
Mm-hmm. And when you think about the success you guys have had and winning a championship, and even as you talk about with the overlap of the NLL, kind of slowing things down at the beginning of the season, you've got that experience that this is what we need to do to prepare. And I'm sure with having another season under your belt, this year will be even more special. Winning ways are hard to come by, but as you talk about offensively making some adjustments, what are you excited most about this team? Every team has their own identity, their own bread and butter that makes up the product we see on the field. What are you most excited about in terms of the identity of this team looking ahead to the summer?
Well, the first challenge we have is making sure that we can get through free agency with ideally our entire roster intact. I told these guys at the end of last season, I think we have the best locker room in lacrosse, and in a perfect world, we're able to keep everybody back on the team. And obviously we'll be adding a few guys in the college draft, but the hope is that we can re-sign everybody and bring everybody back. That's going to be a challenge. There are a bunch of really good players that are able to leverage free agency, and depending upon what happens in that area will dictate what adjustments we need to make going into training camp. We have a significant number of our key players already signed, but we also have some really key players that have not signed, and so we have a work cut out for us in terms of trying to manage getting some of these guys re-signed. And if we can do that, I believe that we're going to be starting farther ahead than we have in years past. And so I'm excited about the idea of getting everybody back together again. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting.
It is going to be interesting. And there are a lot, as you talk about preparing for the season, a lot more that goes into it of just making sure you can get your core group back, get your roster back the way that you want it to be, work through free agency, and make sure that you guys are ready to, hit preseason and hit training the right way. So it is tough to build a team that has a strong locker room. The culture's there. Everybody's got the right mindset, the right attitude. And when you have the opportunity to build that, it's special. It definitely is. But you also mentioned that overlap with the NLL and how tough that was last season. I'm curious to know your thoughts, especially with so many of your top guys right now across the NLL doing some big things. Your thoughts on the start of the NLL season? Most teams 4 to 5, maybe 6 games in at this point as we're heading into week 8. So what are your early thoughts on the season and what you've been seeing?
Well, it's no surprise that Josh Byrne is having an MVP caliber season. It's great to see. He is just an unbelievably entertaining player to watch. But he's a phenomenal teammate, and he, as productive as he is as measured by points, I think he really gives everybody in his locker room a shot in the arm, because you're going to be able to get a certain amount of instant offense out of him. And then you combine the fact that he's playing with one of his best friends in Dane Smith, and that is a dynamic duo. It's a dynamic duo in the PLL. I think it's the best 1-2 punch in the PLL, and it is the best 1-2 punch in the NLL. So it's no surprise to see Buffalo off to a fast start. I think clearly the surprise, then you go out the opposite coast to the Seals, them being able to pick up Curtis Dixon and what he's doing that game. I mean, he is just unbelievably fun to watch as well. And while they had a great season last year, I think they're even more dangerous this season. You put him with Westberg at Audi Stats. Both guys were on Chaos last year. and that team is looking like they're going to be coming out of the West. I'm sure Wardo in Colorado will have something to say about that. I saw that Calgary was able to beat the Seals this past weekend, so certainly they have something to say about it. So not surprised by the success of those teams. Clearly the story of the year is Rochester. You look at them being 5-0. Connor Fields is off to a great start of the season, and my guy Ryan Smith is having another great indoor season up there. And you're really starting to see some separation here of the teams that appear to be the front runners to be able to compete for the championship. And then you've got, sort of the other half of the group that seems like they are, a full notch behind these teams. But it's no surprise to me to see the Seals and the Mammoth and, Buffalo, right there in the mix. Halifax has a couple of tough losses recently, but they're one of the best teams and they're capable of winning the whole thing. Toronto's capable of winning the whole thing. And I don't think that any of us would have seen Rochester's success coming, but clearly through, 5-6 games, they've proved that they're arguably the best team in the league. So I think there's a lot to be excited about as a fan of the NLL.
There is a lot to be excited about. And every week we're getting overtime games. We're getting, undefeated streaks coming to an end, teams getting their first win of the season. There's something happening, breaking news as well, each week that's been very fun to watch. But I'm curious to know, as a coach, seeing your players, Josh Byrne, Dane Smith, two of the big names, obviously right now, as we were even talking about, competing for MVP in the NLL. But when you look across your roster and the talent that the Chaos has, including players like Ryan Smith and Wes Berg that you mentioned, how proud and exciting is it for you to see the success they're having, knowing and hoping it should translate into your PLL season?
Yeah, I'm very proud, and I'm every bit as much of a fan of them when they're playing in the NLL as I am a fan and a coach of them in PLL. These guys are phenomenally talented guys, but what really makes them the players that they are is they're such great teammates. These guys, all of them, from Ryan Smith to Dane Smith to Josh Byrne to Chris Cloutier, who's currently out with an injury, but Chase Frazier, who's out, got surgery this season, preseason, I should say, in September. Max Adler starting to make his mark, getting comfortable in the NLL, and then obviously the guys out west between, Bergie and some of the others. It's not surprising to me at all to see that these guys are having the same success in indoor that they're able to provide to us in outdoor. But I think the reason they're so good is they are authentically out for their teammates' success. And when the most talented players in the world are team first and exemplify that, obviously their team is going to be cohesive and they're going to be a dangerous team to play on game day. And I think you're seeing that out of the teams that they play for in the NLL. And certainly we're optimistic that will carry over again this summer. And hopefully we're going to be able to, win the championship again. Last year was a little bit frustrating in that last game, but it doesn't take away from the fact that we were able to get it together and make a serious run when everybody had us counted out.
Mm-hmm. And I can hear just in what you're saying, just how much you appreciate and value and the relationship that's there with your guys, your players that have, whether they're playing with you with the Chaos or you're watching them with the NLL, just how fun that is, to be a part of. And you're a part of so many great parts of lacrosse. As you talk about winning a 2021 championship with the Chaos, you are an ambassador for a number of different organizations. And one thing that you work with, Lacrosse Draws. I'm interested to know more about that and what you can share about what Lacrosse Draws is actually all about.
Sure. Lacrosse Draws is my company. And essentially what it is it is a player development platform. And I run 4 camps in the summer. I do private small group lessons throughout the entire year. And then from October to February, I run a 17-week progressive program where I have about 700 kids that I do 21 sessions a week with. I'm doing 6 sessions on Monday, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. And I do that same schedule Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then on the weekends, I do private sessions. And then on Sundays, in the last few weeks of January and February, I do private prep school clinics where I drive up to Berkshire School and do the Boys and Girls program there. I do then drive to Taft and do the Boys and Girls program there. And Really what it is it's focusing on skill set development, IQ development, intangible awareness. And, I'm trying to do it in a fun yet hyper competitive atmosphere where these kids are taught the importance of being a good teammate. And it's really a great thing to be able to wake up and do every day. I feel very, very blessed that I'm able to, make a living out of this, as it is my passion. And, certainly my involvement in the PLL in the summertime, helps my lacrosse draws business, and my lacrosse draw business keeps me sharp as, a prelude to, the PLL season each summer. So it really is, I've got a lot to be thankful for.
Yes, you do. And I'm thankful for the work that you're doing to help be a part of the success of and leading the chaos, and also being a part of, what we're seeing season after season in the PLL of great lacrosse. But then, as you mentioned, continuing to help grow the game with the next generation, whether it's teaching them how to be a better player, the fundamentals, or even teaching them how to be a better teammate. As we know, all of those key components into success, being able to help be your very best on the lacrosse field. So Andy Towers, you can hear why you are so successful in what you're doing. And I appreciate you for taking time to join us here on Daily Dive and to shine a light on all the great things you're doing. And as we look ahead, I wish you the best of luck this upcoming PLL season if we don't chat before then.
Thanks so much for having me on. It's a total pleasure. And thanks for everything that you guys do to build the sport and unify the sport all under one umbrella. We all benefit from the hard work of the media and you guys covering the sport the way that you do. So thanks for everything that you do, and best of luck moving ahead.
Oh, thank you, Andy. PLL, NLL, whatever it is, the PBLA, it's all across. We're all excited to see the great products and talent that we're watching every week. So thank you so much for joining us. That is our big guest of the day, presented by Fanatics, Andy Towers. Again, 2021 PLL champion, head coach of the Chaos, looking ahead to the 2023 season, but enjoying, as I'm sure he is, the success that his players are having right now in the NLL. So let's shift back over to the NLL and recap some of the games this past weekend, as we had a wild week 7. So stay tuned. More to come here on Daily Dive in just a moment. Welcome back to Daily Dive. We had our big guest of the show, presented by Fanatics, Andy Towers, PLL head coach of the Chaos. And we've got to get back into some of the action. I mean, where do we begin? We could have spent a full episode talking about the games this past weekend, but let's recap what happened. In our Daily Dive game of the week, the Colorado Mammoth knocked off the Saskatchewan Rush 11-10 in overtime. Another overtime win this weekend. One of us picked the Mammoth to win, as Reese Dutch netted the game winner to lift the Mammoth over the Rush in the rematch. What a win, producer Mike. Woo! Thoughts?
Oh, yeah, you got it right. Game of the week always delivers on Daily Dive. Our guests always deliver. It's awesome. I love it. I love this was a great game. I knew Mammoth were going to come out tough. I knew what Cody Jansen, our guest on Wednesday, said was true, and they did. And Rush couldn't overcome. But man, this Rush and Mammoth teams, both of these guys, if they mean the playoffs, good God, can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Incredible stuff from them.
The series now split. These two teams, every time, it's exciting. And we knew this was going to be, I definitely remember calling a down to the wire game, but yeah, it's remarkable that we have continued to have the Daily Dive good luck charm of our game of the week, of our guests, of our player guests that come on to continue that success after we talk about it on the show. No big deal. So if you want some of that good luck charm, come on to Daily Dive. Well, another team's good luck came to an end. I don't call it luck, though. It's a winning streak as the San Diego Seals got their first loss of the season. Calgary went up 5-0 in the first and did not look back. We talked about the San Diego Seals digging themselves in a hole before, including the comeback win against Saskatchewan earlier this season. But this time they dug a hole too deep. They couldn't get out of it as they dropped a 4-goal loss and now dropped to 4-1 on the season. Roughnecks knocking off the Seals. What are your thoughts there, Mike?
Is it possible for a goalie to win MVP? Because Christian Del Bianco is a monster. You don't go up 5-0 on the Seals, who can turn it on and turn it off at any given moment without having a great goalie. And by the way, Renee, you have been mentioning Seals have gone cold way too much. And by godly, is it inconsistency or is it lack of, I don't want to say it's lack of trying, but something is like, they got to get that figured out because going down 5-0 did them in and they lost by 4. So I don't know, man.
The numbers don't lie. You go down by 5, you end up losing the game by 4. You never came back from that deficit. You cannot afford to be a top team in the league, and then especially with championship aspirations, if you cannot play a full game start to finish. And defensively, I think that is what we're seeing from the Seals, where they're getting exposed between the pipes, and defensively, they don't have that consistency enough. I think offensively, without a doubt, anybody that's watched them play can easily say that is definitely one of the top offenses in the league. Defensively, that is the question mark, and that is why we're seeing a start like this against Calgary. But at some point, it comes back to bite you in the bum. If you continue to drop and give up goals, that teams are going to figure you out, and they're going to be able to hold off your offense and walk away with the win like Calgary did. Well, another team that finally walked away with the win, we knew somebody was going to come out this weekend with a win after their winless start. But I don't know that we expected it to be the Vancouver Warriors. They knock off the Desert Dogs 19-16. This was a shootout. Keegan Ball with 5 goals, 3 assists. Rob Hellier, who we talked about earlier with one of our Daily Dive stars of the weekend, 10 assists, 1 goal. Vancouver gets their first win of the season. The Desert Dogs 0-4 on the season. Oh, yeah, and they get to play again Friday night, 10:30 Eastern, now in Vegas. Whew.
Yeah, I'm writing a letter right now to Jeff Teets, and I'm saying, you see what Keegan Ball did this weekend, how he scored a bunch of goals and delivered? Okay, I'm going to put that in my mailbox, and I'm good. I'm on Daily Dive mailbox over here. That's all I got.
That's all you got. Producer Mike, coming at Jeff T always. But I
expect the greatest.
I was gonna say you're expecting more from him. You're raising the bar. You're putting more on him. And when you see what a player like Keegan Ball is doing, and Vancouver was 0-4 coming into this weekend, but Keegan Ball found a way to literally lift his team. You get Rob Hellier to help, who had a tremendous game, and he lifted his team to victory. Big players step up in big moments, regardless what your record is, regardless who you're playing, and you've got to find a way to do that. Well, also we saw the Bandits talk about big players stepping up, knock off the Swarm as Josh Byrne finished with 6 goals, 3 assists, a sock trick. Is that real? Is it really a sock trick?
It is called a sock trick when they score.
I know it's a hat trick when it's 3 goals. I actually never have. I haven't. Yeah, okay. Even in all my years of sports, I didn't even know that's what it was called. And we saw that Buffalo is the favorite, I should say, has been the favorite. And on the other side, Lyle Thompson, 4 goals, 2 assists. Lyle can only do so much as the Swarm dropped a close loss, though, to the Bandits.
Yeah, 3.5 was the biggest of the season so far. And that was interesting. We had it 2.5 and somebody else found it 3.5. And that's a difference. And I thought I was going to cover both of them, and nope. Shout out to the Swarm for keeping it ugly. I was surprised because this game was in Buffalo. And so I was surprised that the Bandits did not score 25 on these guys. So it shows the Swarm have a little bit of heart, but their offense still can't get it going. Don't know what it is, but they got to do something.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see on that one too. Another team that's got some work to do. Well, we already talked about the Riptide Knighthawks results as the Knighthawks remain undefeated and Riptide remain winless. But also we saw the Thunderbirds get knocked off in overtime by the Firewolves. Albany wins 11-10 and then also turned around at the Rock. That game was 17-8. They led 10-8 with just about 3 minutes, 40 seconds left versus Albany, and then lost in overtime for the Thunderbirds. Tough weekend for Halifax when you look at it, but Albany, whoo!
Yeah,
What an
Albany's looking
incredible
good.
win.
Albany looks really good.
Yes.
And you know what? In that Rock game, I mean, we knew it was going to be disgusting. That's why there was no money on it. But I'm telling you, that game got ugly late. There was some fighting. And then one guy was trying to rip somebody else off the bench. Like, what are we doing here? Like, 3 guys got ejected. It was Thunderbirds were not happy about their weekend. And I wouldn't be either. But maybe that's something the commissioner can look at because,
An 0-2 weekend, you drop an overtime loss in your first game of the weekend, which definitely sets the tone, especially since it was already going to be a tall task facing a rested Toronto the very next day. Doug Jamieson with 50 saves for Albany. Kieran McCardle, who we talked about earlier, scored the 9th and the game-winning goal and assisted on the tying goal in that win, which is why he earned one of our Daily Dive Stars of the weekend. Albany had a fantastic weekend. Thunderbirds, not so much. It was a thunderstorm that they did not want to have happen with an 0-2 weekend. Now it's back to the drawing board for them. Also back to the drawing board for the Wings, as we saw the news of them releasing their veteran Corey Vittorelli, but they also dropped a loss 12-10 to Panther City. So it's been a weekend, Mike, and we've got more this week to dive into as we talk more about these games, get our thoughts, get our predictions, and also we've got to update on our picks because we did pretty well this weekend. We did pretty well.
we both went 5-3, so I still have a game up on you, but I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, solid. I mean, the games that I was wrong on are justifiable. You know, Vancouver winning, looking at Albany winning. They were close games. They were unexpected games. It was not a major upset in any stretch. So week 7 did
Panther
not.
City in Calgary.
Yes, I did not pick that one. It was a big week in the NLL for week 7. Lots of first wins, first losses, some changes around the league, and I'm sure some more changes to come, especially after some teams did not get the results that they wanted this past weekend. So we're going to continue sharing those breaking news stories as they come in. So be sure to tune in. We'll be back here 12 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow for more on Daily Dive. For my producer, Mike, I'm Renee Washington saying have a great rest of your Tuesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow for more updates, stories, and news here on Daily Dive. See you next time.